Welcome to the 52 Love Podcast, your show for 52 lessons in 52 weeks. Before we dive in, remember you can find the audio version of this episode, along with the rest of the series, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Radio Public. And now, here's your host, Ms. Tonya Todd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 52 Love Podcast. I'm your host, Tonya Todd. 52 Love began as a blog series last year, 52 Love Lessons in 52 Weeks. This year, we are exploring each of those tips with a new guest each week. This week's tip is to learn ballroom dancing with your partner, and here to talk about it is my guest, Neil. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi, thanks very much for having me. So my name is Neil Vagg. I am one of two hosts of a podcast called the Get Your Comic On podcast. We are a fortnightly-ish podcast, depending on how life is kind of rolling, which covers everything pop culture, so movies, TV, comic books, gaming, all the usual nerdy stuff. We also have a website, which is www.getyourcomiccon.co.uk, which is rapidly coming up for its 10th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Bless
And
it. So
it's coming up on its 10th anniversary. And didn't you just have an anniversary?
yeah, we just had our 9-year wedding anniversary. So there might be a sort of little connected story there as to
fantastic.
what happened.
Well, let's hear it.
So yeah, we have been married 9 years. We've been together for 13 years. And when we got married, we decided that for our honeymoon, we wanted to go to San Diego Comic-Con. We'd never been before, neither of us had been. So we got married, obviously, November. And so we were saving up to go the next July for the Comic-Con. Didn't end up actually managing to get tickets to the Comic-Con, but we'd already booked the holiday. So we had a lovely 2 weeks in San Diego, exploring the city and kind of looking through the convention center doors and seeing like just a shred of Comic-Con inside it, but not getting to go in. And then, so Comic-Con always falls either just before or just after my birthday, which is in July. And so that year it landed just before. So we were back in London having had this wonderful holiday, and we were out with friends for my birthday. And someone said, "Why do you not just start writing about this stuff? Because I've been a comic book fan my entire life, and a movie fan, TV fan, all that stuff." And so we just came up with this crazy idea on the night, randomly sitting in this it was an outdoor bar that was made to look like a dilapidated like circus. So we were sitting in a bumper car in this sort of old fun fair, just enjoying my birthday. And the next morning,
Sounds kind of
have
spooky.
a website. A little bit spooky, yeah. They do have a circus of horrors.
You said the next morning you had a website?
It was born that night. And that's it.
Excellent.
So I wake up the next day, and somehow, through like the haze of alcohol from that night, there's a website. And so that's kind of how it started. And then it was a website. That was all it was for the first few years. It just rattled on as a hobby, not really anything too serious. And then sadly, about 3 years ago now, my mum passed away.
Oh.
And at that point, I was kind of not really doing the website thing too seriously, but it had started to pick up steam and start to pick up a following. And I thought, you know what? Life's too short. Let's give it a real good go. And around 3 months after that, I got invited to my first screening, met a whole bunch of podcasters and really wonderful people who I now spend lots of time with, and thought, I want to give podcasting a go. And that's how we then ended up with the podcast. Oh, I should say, by that point, Martin was also becoming a bit of a sort of internet like widow, because I was spending so much time before my day job and after my day job writing, that I'm like, I need to involve him somehow. How can I involve him without it being too much work? So I can sit him down in front of a microphone and just ask him to talk for like an hour every couple of weeks. So it was also my way to bring him into the fold, as it were. And that was how we got together. To where we are now. Yeah, exactly. It's a nice couples thing to do.
Yes. Does he share your interest for comic books and movies?
He does, yeah. I have a feeling that I've made it worse over the years, and that it maybe wasn't quite as kind of demanding as mine is. He says sitting in front of a bookshelf that's like purely comic books. But yeah, we share a lot of the same interests in that respect. So it's really nice, because it's just like geeking out with your best friend, really.
What was the movie that was your first screening?
So it was Aquaman.
Oh, really?
So it was Jason Momoa's Aquaman, yeah. So that was kind of.
So it was a big one.
Because I grew up on DC Comics. Yeah, it was. It wasn't like the red carpet premiere. It was a press screening. So it was just invited guests. But I
But
mean,
still,
it
you're
absolutely blew
press.
my
Like
mind at the time.
you made it. You're
Yeah,
press.
yeah, yeah. And I mean that was December 2018, and I still have imposter syndrome whenever I get invited to anything or I'm at anything like that.
Well,
I just, I
I
don't,
definitely understand that.
it's,
It
yeah,
probably just never goes away.
no. And to be honest, I don't think I ever want it to. I'm one of those people that if I'm too comfortable, if I get too comfortable with something that
Mhm.
used to make me nervous, then that's a bad sign.
'Cause then you're not
I
trying
feel
anymore.
like, yes, exactly. I feel like if there's no nerves, then what are you doing it for?
I definitely want to talk more about your love of comics and movies later, but
Mm,
what you just said was an excellent segue into this week's tip because this whole series is about not getting too comfortable in your situation and working, using love as a verb
yeah.
and working toward a better and stronger relationship. So tell me how it went with this week's tip.
So this is funny. There's a bit of a history here. So when you gave me the options, I was like, oh, this is weirdly almost a slightly full circle moment for me right here, because obviously, so we got married 9 years ago. We did the kind of typical wedding thing. We had the ceremony, then we had the big party, and part of the big party is the cake and the first dance,
Mhm.
which was about as awkward as you could possibly kind of picture it as being like prom, like high school prom, awkward, like sort of plodding on the spot. And we picked a song that we both really, really liked. So we picked the song "Good Enough" by Evanescence, which is a really nice like piano ballad. But there's two versions of it. The version that's on the album is about 9.5 minutes long, and it has an incredibly long intro that's just pure piano. And then there's a radio edit. And I kept saying to the DJ, please play the radio edit, please play the radio edit. I can give you the radio edit if you don't have it. And he kept saying, it's fine, I've got it. And I kept saying, but it was never released in the UK. It was only a single in the US. I don't think you're going to have it. And he was like, no, I do,
Right.
I do, I do. And you can
Show
imagine
me,
what
sir.
happened.
Show me.
Yeah, I should have. I should have. He played the 9.5 minute version, and it was 9.5 minutes of just.
Yeah.
Did you
The
did you
longest
ever
nine and a
see?
half minutes of your life.
Oh yes. Did you ever see the Mario Brothers movie in the 90s with Bob Hoskins as Super Mario?
No.
There were these giant villains called Goombas, and there's this running joke that they just love music. And
Mhm.
there's a scene in a lift where they need to try and escape them, and there's some terrible lift music playing, and they just start swaying them, and all the next scene is just all these creatures just doing this back and forth, and that's kind of
That
how
was
it
your
is in my
first dance?
imagination. Yeah, that was our first dance. So the fact that this came up, I was like, this is funny. This kind of gives us there's a full circle moment here. This is quite funny.
Yes.
So we looked to see if there was anywhere we could go and do it this week, but there wasn't anywhere kind of physically that we could go do it. So we ended up doing YouTube tutorials from
Okay.
the wonderful people. I will give them a shout out. Learn to Dance on YouTube. They have paid subscriptions, which may happen next. I might add, it might happen. So we used a couple of their they've got some really, really easy ones, which are probably good for someone like me. But we tried their ballroom dancing tip. And can I just say, I have no coordination whatsoever. There was a lot of treading on toes, or we're going to go this way and then I go that way, or we're going to go backwards and I then go backwards as well. And it was one of those situations that proved to me that I should probably just stay seated for most of my life.
No, you need to keep
But
practicing like you did with your
well,
with
yes,
your with your podcast and with your writing.
yes, this is true. But the thing of it is that even to all of that, you then have just an amazing, purely fun time where you just laugh. And
Mhm.
it's not like I'm not one of those people that when I can't do something, I get really frustrated with it. I will just laugh at myself and go, wow, I am bad at this. And so we just had a wonderful time being really stupid and goofy, which for two people, for anybody that doesn't kind of know the two of us from social media, we both work in the National Health Service outside of all the geeky stuff that we do. Martin is a nurse and I'm a service manager. So the hospital that we work in is a cancer specialist hospital. So, it can be tough at the best of times, but
Mhm.
for the last kind of 18 months, it's been the
Yeah.
toughest of tough times. So to be able to just like not care about anything for a few minutes and just have ridiculous fun with someone who you spend all your life with anyway is amazing.
Well, that is wonderful. Is he a little more coordinated than you?
Yes, much, much more. In
More
terms of
than a
sort of
little.
background, yeah. In terms of like sort of musical background, he has a much more varied taste in music than I do, which is probably would lean itself more towards actually being able to dance. I grew up in sort of going to heavy metal gigs and punk gigs and, like biker bars and greasy mosh pits. So if it only requires me to stand still and just thrash my head back and forth, I am fine. If it requires me to do something more coordinated, it's going to take me a while to get my head around it, I'm
That
afraid.
shows you what I know. I never even thought about biker bars in the UK. It's just
They
not an image I
exist.
have.
No, I mean, it's maybe not quite as cool. Like if you think maybe like all those bars that you see in like Supernatural or something like that, where they're on the road and everyone's just kind of cool, and you've got the awesome jukebox. The jukebox is there. Everything else is a little bit less cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Well,
quite
still.
doesn't quite live up to sort of the Hollywood image, but we
Yeah,
try
the
our best.
Hollywood image of biker bars.
Yeah, yeah, not so glamorous, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it and that you are willing to try it again. It sounds like
Yeah,
it's just what you guys needed.
yeah, it was really good fun. So thank you very much for that.
So tell me how you got involved with the Comics in Motion crew.
So that was I've known Max for a while now, Maxi Byrne, who does his mandatory Marvel versus DC through Comics in Motion. So I've known him for a little while because one of the first people that I met, who I actually met at the Aquaman screening, was a guy called Paul who runs a website called DC World, and Max does some writing for him as well. So I kind of got to know Max, and then have just gotten to know other people through Max, and that's kind of how I've started circling the Comics in Motion guys. So then um, there's kind of two sides to this, and this might be something that you will come across the more you get involved with the kind of that sort of circle of people, and then the next wider circle that come involved with it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
there are people who do this whole kind of podcasting, YouTubing, blogging thing who are really interested in people seeing their face and them having notoriety as who they are, rather than the other half who are very much people that just love, like who I class myself as one of these people who just like to talk about the stuff that they enjoy and that they love,
Mm-hmm.
who just like sitting down like we are right now, just having a conversation
Right.
like two friends, rather than it being a kind of forced, staged conversation that is more about how can I further myself and my own agenda.
Right. I think Mike is
And
like that.
so,
Like I should say for the audience that the reason we met is we're officially meeting right now, but the reason we know of each
yeah,
other is through Mike Burton. And my first conversation with him was just, wow, I am just chatting with a friend right now. Like it
yeah,
was just an amazing
isn't it?
conversation with a stranger. And by the end, we were
Yeah,
buddies.
yeah. That's the thing. You can make some amazing connections with people that you might not have met if it hadn't been for social media and
Right.
podcasts and just the people that you meet. So uh, I'm one of these people that I know I have some amazing opportunities through the platform that I've built for myself and with the people that now work with me on the website and with Martin on the podcast. And so it kind of I'd realized that I'd never really spoken to the guys behind Comics in Motion about whether, I know a lot of them aren't sort of London based like I am. I'm very, very lucky in that I'm in London because this is where all of the opportunities kind of stem from.
Yeah.
But I said to Max, like, are these guys interested in reviewing some of the kind of home movie stuff that comes out? Like DC release 4 animated movies a year that are just straight to DVD, but massive in the fandom. And they send us those Blu-rays. That's not a case of you're in London, you need to come to this cinema to go to a screening.
Right.
And I said to Max, are these guys interested? And he said, yeah, I'm sure they are. So I reached out to them and said, look, I have like a Rolodex of names of random people that can hook you up with stuff if you're interested in kind of taking the next step. And that was how I got really kind of in with them, was just talking about how you can just take the next step in terms of your kind of reviewing and your access to content. And then obviously you've got Tony and Jax and their amazing trip through the Buffyverse, which
Yes.
has really been, that's really sucked me because I love listening to those two. And I just guested with them talking about season 2 of Angel, which was like a little dream come true. And I got quite starstruck when I actually got to see the two of them for the first time. So I was like, I listen to you every month. I had no idea what you look like. So that's kind of, yeah. And now I've just literally last night recorded another guest spot with Max. So I'm back on Max's show to talk about a Spider-Man comic book in the next week or so. So I'm becoming a serial guest, basically.
Yeah. But you're getting to talk about the things that you love, right?
Exactly. And there's something really fun about guesting as well. I'd never done it before this year. It was something that I'd wanted to do just to see what it was like to not have to worry about kind of carrying the show and then editing all of it afterwards. I was interested to see what the experience was like. And you are my 12th. So I've now hit an average of 1 per month for 2021.
Nice.
So I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud that I've been able to push myself and do it. And it's just, I love it because it's less pressured and I can just sit and chat with friends.
Right. You don't have to do it like it's work. It's just, hey, I'm just here
Yeah.
having a conversation.
Yeah.
Although to be
what's not
fair,
to love?
when you're talking about the Buffyverse or you're talking about Angel, you have to do a little research because you have to put in your time for a season, and then you have to.
Yeah, true.
What are the names of the episodes, and what are your favorites? You know, there is a little work involved.
Yeah,
It's like, man, I have all this homework to do.
Now, I think that's probably apart from trying to learn to dance, I think that's probably the most homework I've ever had to do for a podcast was go through that season. And I kept saying to myself, I'll start this weekend. And it was like, okay, I've got 4 days until I have to record this. Like,
Oh no,
I
you
really
had to
need
binge
to sit down.
it.
I need to binge this now. So I was just kind of sitting here sort of on one monitor trying to learn all the episode names and on the other monitor just going, right, okay, what's happening right now? Okay, this
Yeah.
is what's happening. Yep, I remember this.
Cram it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, just out of curiosity, who is your favorite character in the Buffy universe? And we'll include the Angel universe too, just for both
It
of
was a
them.
little bit controversial when I recorded because I actually think Cordelia is my favorite.
Wow.
I think that there is an amazing arc to that character, and I do think it ends sadly due to what we all know was going on behind the scenes. But
Yeah.
I just loved how she went from who she was in the pilot of Buffy to where she was at the end, and I just felt like she had this huge growth as a human being. And I said on that podcast, I came into Buffy where I was a very similar age to the characters. So I
Hmm.
felt like I really got that sort of the whole analogy that it was just real life, but dressed up as demons and monsters. And so there was something sort of aspirational about, not that I would say I was ever like she was and when she was in high school in Sunnydale, but
But
there
don't
was
we
something
all wish
aspirational
we
about the fact
were
that,
just so sure of
yeah,
ourselves and confident?
yes,
That
exactly,
episode where
exactly,
they had everyone's inner thoughts and then what they would say, she was the one who just said what she was thinking. She was
yeah,
the most
yeah,
she in high school was her most authentic self, like compared to everybody else who was all worried about their
yeah,
insecurity. She's like, why do I need to be insecure? Look at me. I'm smart and I'm
yeah,
awesome, you know?
yeah. And there's something aspirational about that. So I picked her, but she is not Jax's favorite character at all. His is, for anybody that doesn't know, his favorite is Spike, who I happen to say was probably my least favorite when he went over to Angel for the final season.
That's interesting. I see.
I don't know
I
what it
like
was. I
both
felt like it
characters, but
was
neither are my
unnecessary.
favorite.
Who's your favorite?
Angel is my favorite. But
Why
I
not?
don't know if it's Angel or Angelus, you know? Like I really, really like
Ooh,
Angelus.
there's a dark side there.
Yeah. He's just
I mean,
hotter
fair
than
play to
Angel, you
him.
know?
Well, yeah, there's that, obviously. Yeah. It just amazes me that David Boreanaz has been on TV basically almost every week since the start
S-
of Buffy.
Since
He
he
has got to be one
started.
of the hardest working people in TV. It's
Yes.
mad.
There's just something about him though. Like he's charismatic, you know. He
Yeah,
draws your attention when he's on screen no matter what he's doing. And
he does.
as far as Angel, I just love tall, broody guys, you know, I just do. With dark histories. It's kind of my thing, you know?
I'm rewatching Bones at the moment, and it's I love that show. There's just something so again, I think charismatic about that show, and I love the two of them together. I think
Isn't it
they're
weird
hilarious
seeing him in
together.
the
They're a
sun,
great duo.
though? It's like, oh, he's in the
Yes.
sun. I didn't know he could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've gotten way off topic.
Oh, but this is where you have the best conversations, though. And this is what's the best thing about doing stuff like this.
And this is the connection of Comics in Motion. Like, this is the kind of people
Yeah.
that they bring. Like, I feel like I'm an honorary stepchild or distant cousin or something of the Comics in Motion crew.
Yeah.
Because I'm
It's the best place to
involved
be.
in many of the shows, many of the episodes throughout the year, and I've been introduced to just so many amazing people. When I was researching you, I found that
Uh-oh.
you recently did an interview about Batman Returns, which is my absolute favorite movie, and I started to listen to it, and you gave away a
Yes.
spoiler for an upcoming movie. I was like, oh no, I can't.
Oh no.
So now
Did
I
I?
have to wait to
What
finish.
did I do?
Well, I don't watch trailers before the movie comes out.
Yeah.
I love watching them
Yeah.
afterward, but I don't want
Yeah.
spoilers. I don't read about the movie before it comes out. I try to avoid knowing about casting.
Amazing.
And you gave away a
Yeah.
spoiler about something, and I will tell you off screen,
Oh.
but I don't want to ruin
Okay.
it for anybody else.
I mean, I'm intrigued. I can't think what I was talking about. But that's, do you know what? That's one thing which I maybe do miss, as much as, again, I will always say I'm so thankful for the position that I'm in. But obviously, people at the moment are all talking about Spider-Man No Way Home, which is coming out in
And we're
just a
not
few
going to
weeks'
give
time. And
any
I'm not,
spoilers away right now.
no. I'm not going to say anything. But there is a lot of spoiler content for that, which is out there. And, not all of it is confirmed. Much of it is rumor. There have been plenty of leaks, photos, footage that some people will say is fake, some people will say is real. But I no longer live in a world where I can actually avoid it, because it's kind of
it's your job.
my job to deal with it. So I kind of live in a world where I've had to learn to live with it. But luckily, and this kind of goes back to my Buffy days. I know I used to read spoilers for Buffy online before it was on, but I still get excited when the stuff happens, even though I know it might be coming. I still get excited about it, and I think that's probably what gets me through, to be honest.
And
But
it's
I'm very,
a fair
very sorry that
loss
I
when you're
spoiled something
involved
for
with
you.
it. It's like, well, this is part of my world now, so I've lost
Yeah.
this aspect of it, but I get all of this in return, so it's worth it.
Yeah. There's definitely a trade-off there that's worthwhile.
So what are you most excited to review or to cover coming up?
Ooh, I'm really interested in the new Matrix movie that's, again, out next month. I was a big fan of the original. I do like the second one. I'm not so sure on the third one, but I'm really interested to see what ideas Lana Wachowski has to bring it back. That really got everyone on board so much that they felt this was the right time and the right story, that it was the right thing to do. I'm really interested by that, and I hope it pays off in wonderful ways, because I think there is some great themes behind that whole franchise.
It's one of those things
if you can
where
watch those
I'm
movies
nervous,
over and over.
I'm nervous because
Yeah.
it didn't feel like we needed this, but I'm obviously going to see it,
Yes. And so I went to see I went to see King Richard, the new Will Smith film that's about the Williams sisters. It just came out in the UK today, but I went to see it earlier in the week. And I think I've been to a couple of Warner Brothers screenings recently, and they played the Matrix trailer before every single screening. So I'm kind of like, oh, I just want it now. I'm ready for it now. So I think probably that. I've been involved with an Amazon show that just literally came out today as well, called The Wheel of Time, which is based on a novel series that started back in the 80s by an author called
Robert Jordan, I think.
That's the one. Yeah, he passed away, I think, 2007, so he didn't quite finish the series, but there were 14 books. And
I think it was
wasn't
Brandon
aware of the books.
Saunders finished it, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's the name. I wasn't aware of the books beforehand, but I was invited to see the pilot episode last week, just at a very small screening, and then the next day Amazon invited me to come back and see episodes 1 and 2 at the world premiere.
Oh, nice.
So I got to walk it's really difficult because everyone expects you to say red carpet, but it was blue, so I got to walk the blue carpet. I'm not just being weird, and watch that. But through that, I've gotten to know, just in the last week, a whole group of really wonderful fans that have adored these books and grown up with them, and share their excitement for then it being released at midnight last night, which was really nice. There's this huge movement called hashtag Twitter of Time, and there's hundreds of them all across the globe who've all been really just so anxious to finally see it. And it's been really nice to get to know those people as well, which is a really nice side of the job.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to watch it because I have a few family members who absolutely love the series. I never read it myself though. And
No,
then when I
I'm
found out it was
tempted to
coming
read
out,
it
it's
now
like
to see how different it is.
I don't have time to read all of
There's no
these
time.
books before it comes out.
They're really big books. They're
Yeah.
so
The
big.
first
They
one
were
is
explaining.
enormous.
Yeah, it's what did they say? They gave us a statistic. Um, they did a really nice cast Q&A after screening the 2 episodes at the premiere, and the host said that it is. I think she said it was 5 times the length of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And then I read something else completely startling, that there's, I think it's about 2,500 speaking parts throughout the whole series
Oh
of
my
books.
goodness, that's a lot of characters.
And there's almost 200 characters for whom there is at least a chapter in the books that's told from their point of view. So how do you distill that down into a
That
TV
is
series?
so intricate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
I hope that they do the series justice.
So I've seen 3 episodes so far, and I obviously I haven't read it, but as somebody new to this idea, it's hooked me. I'll put it that way. I won't give away any spoilers. It's I'm hooked.
But that says it right there.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to know who's your favorite Marvel character, who's your favorite DC character, and do you have a favorite indie
Okay.
character?
Ooh. Okay. So DC is what I grew up on, and Batman is absolutely my favorite character. Always
Meow.
has been. There are some versions of history where Batman may have been the first words that I spoke as a child, because I literally just used to sit in front of the TV and watch reruns of Adam West. One of the first films I ever owned on videotape was I'd say Michael Keaton, and Jack Nicholson. Batman Returns, one of my favorite movies of absolutely all time. So he is my absolute hero. Always has been, always will be. And
Good
Marvel, it would
choice.
be Spider-Man.
Also a
I
good
I
choice, which
like
is funny because they're so different.
yeah, yeah. I I'm generally, and well, I mean, you can see it because you can see me on camera. I'm generally a very smiley, kind of happy sort of guy, and I feel like I work through any sort of aggression or negative feeling or darkness through reading heavier material like Batman, like Detective Comics, or listening to more aggressive, angrier music. And I work through it that way. So I think that's why I often find myself attracted to more darker sort of vigilante type characters. But then with Spider-Man, and I was explaining this with Max last night, so I kind of did the typical journey that a lot of us in comics have, which is I read them when I was quite young, drifted
Mhm.
away for a while in sort of early teens, and then came back to them sort of late teens. And I came back into Spider-Man at a point where they were pitching the character at the same age that I was, so similar to identifying with the crew in Buffy. I think
Mhm.
I it's great when you can pick up a comic book and see yourself. Like I can't really. I'm not a billionaire. I do not own a amazing tech company, and I do not have a mansion with a butler, and there is no cave. Uh, but I was an incredibly weedy teenager who enjoyed science. So I can see myself in Peter Parker. So
What about an
indie
indie
character,
character?
indie
Yeah.
character. Oh, does Buffy count? Because she's under Boom Studios, which is kind of an indie label. Does that count?
If it counts to you, it counts.
Do you know what? It can't. Yeah, I was about to say that counts to me. So let's go Buffy, because you can never go wrong with Buffy.
Yeah.
She
Well,
manages
thank
to
you.
transcend all the issues of what's happened in recent years with Joss Whedon, and is still the icon that she is. So she
Right. I
deserves it.
mean, all of that does not change how amazing the series was,
Exactly. Yeah,
how incredible the characters were, and that it it earned its place in history.
yeah, and I think
Like,
we all said it in talking to Jax and Tony as well, saying it was more than Joss Whedon that made the character. It was
right.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. It was all the cast. It was
Exactly.
all the writers, all the producers, everyone.
Yeah, one person does not make or break a show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me today and for trying the tip and having fun with it and sharing all of your nerdiness with us. Please let the audience know where they can find you and how they can support your work.
Okay, so, well, firstly, thank you so much. It was lovely to actually officially meet you and get to chat to you. Um,
Same.
if you want to find me, then all my kind of written ramblings are at www.getyourcomiccon.co.uk. We are on Twitter and Instagram at Get Your Comic Con. And then if you want to follow me personally for any of my rantings that go outside of that, then I'm at Neil Vagg. So it's NeilVagg, and that's on Twitter and Instagram as well. If you happen to like cats, then you'll love my Instagram.
Well, guess who's joining now?
I'm really surprised. So this is where I'm sitting right now is where I tend to be when I'm working from home, because we're still not kind of back in our offices full time. And normally I can't sit at this computer and be in a meeting talking for more than a minute without at least one of the cats just padding up and down the desk. So I'm kind of sorry that you've not had the guest appearance.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's asleep somewhere, to be honest.
Well, thank you everyone for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you give Neil some love in the comments. And until next time, remember to treat love as a verb.